Thank you very much. As consumers, we are constantly bombarded with messages about what we should eat. TV adverts, magazine articles, posters in our doctors. And when it comes to our diet, absolutely everyone has an opinion, and some, or many, think they are experts. So it becomes quite difficult for all of us to know what we should and what we shouldn't eat. And I might make it just a little bit more difficult because I'm going to ask the question, and my big idea is what we should or we shouldn't eat specifically for you and I. A diet personalised and tailored to your genetic profile. So what is personalised nutrition? Well, we at UCD believe you can personalise your diet at 3 different levels. Level 1 is looking at your diet, your likes, your dislikes, what you're currently eating, and making changes so that you can eat to your optimum health. Now, this is being done already. If you visit a dietitian or a health professional, they'll take the time to talk to you, find out what you are eating and what you should eat. If we move towards what would happen in a doctor's office when we take not just your diet, but maybe we take blood measurements like your cholesterol, your glucose, we take your weight and your height, your blood pressure, and then we can take your diet and we can also give slightly tailored modifications on these different measurements that we have made and ask you to follow a diet that will help reduce your risk of different diseases. Level 3 is when it becomes a little bit more interesting, that perhaps within our genetic makeup, that there may be slight variations in the genes that metabolize the foods that we eat that could mean that we should have a diet tailored specifically to us. So why would this be the case? Well, we're all slightly different. Our DNA can determine to some extent the height that we are, the color of our hair, the color of our eyes. So it makes sense that actually the genes within our body also have variations or make a difference on how we metabolize our food. And when we look around the room here, we're all different. We all have differences in our genes that mean we are different sizes and shapes and have different hair color and different eyes. And the genes that encode or utilize and break down our food can also have subtle variations in them. And that is the basis of personalized nutrition. So I'm going to give you a few examples. The first example I'm going to talk about is an enzyme that metabolizes or breaks down a B vitamin called folate or folic acid. And it has the lovely name, methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase, but we commonly call it MTHFR. Now, for about 10 to 15% of this population, of all of you sitting in front of me, you will have a copy of that enzyme that just doesn't work as well as the rest of us or other people. And for you, it would be very important that you consume a considerable amount of folate or folic acid in your diet to help reduce the risk of diseases like cardiovascular disease, blood pressure, heart stroke, etc. And the question is, if you knew you had this variation, would you increase your intake of folate by consumption of dark leafy green veg or fortified foods with folic acid? By giving you this information, are you more empowered to know and are you more motivated to change? Another example I want to give is in the angiotensin gene, a gene that helps regulate our blood pressure. So currently, if you have high blood pressure, you go to the doctor, they'll take your blood pressure, and they'll give you general advice, good advice that will tell you to start exercising, to lose a little bit of weight, and to make changes in your diet, to increase your fiber, but also to reduce your salt. Now, there's a variation in the angiotensin gene that says about 30% of some populations are unresponsive to changes in salt with respect to their blood pressure. So that would mean about 30% of you, if you changed your salt intake, it would have no impact on your blood pressure. And again, the question is, wouldn't you want to know this? For that 30%, you could then spend more time on the other recommendations. You could be more physically active. You could be better at losing your weight, increasing other parts of your diet. And for the 70% for whom changes in salt were going to have an effect on your blood pressure, would you be more motivated to follow those recommendations? And should doctors know this? Should the recommendations be given to you tailored at the point of advice? Another example, and the final example I'm going to give, is actually genetic variation in taste. Much like we have variations in the genes that metabolize our food, we also have variations in the way that we can taste. And I can ask you quickly whether some of you, who likes cucumber and who doesn't, okay? I think cucumber tastes like water. But for quite a number of you in the audience, it will taste incredibly bitter. And that's because there are compounds in some foods, like the skin on cucumber, for whom some people have a very, very sensitive genetic variation that means they can really taste this, and for others, they taste absolutely nothing. So we at UCD have done some studies to have a look to sort of see, does this genetic variation in taste have an impact on the foods that we eat and their food choice and our nutrient intake? And whilst we were very enthusiastic, we looked at one gene that was a bitter tasting receptor, and we wanted to see, did it have an effect? We were quite disappointed to find out that it had a little impact on diet, because food choice is so complex. The examples I have given you are one gene, one nutrient, folate and MTHFR, salt and the angiotensin gene. But we are quite complex. And this is where personalized nutrition is going to take some time. We have upwards of 20,000 genes with 3 billion base pairs in our DNA. And we don't eat nutrients, we eat foods, we eat meals, we have dietary patterns. And whilst personalized nutrition has some way to go, it's going to have to embrace this complexity, the permutations and combinations from all the variations from diet and our genes before we're going to be able to give specifically tailored advice. In UCD, we're involved in a study called Food for Me that is trying to untangle some of this complexity. We have conducted a study where we have given individuals different levels of personalized advice. Remember, level 1, your diet, level 2, your blood measurements, your weight, your height, and level 3, your genes. So we're going to be able to ask those questions of what information do you want to know? If you know more information, are you motivated to change? Who are those more likely to change and why? So we can begin to tailor and target our information and collect the right information for consumers to change accordingly. We're also going to look at the ethical and legal issues that might be raised in taking such measurements. Should we ethically be tailoring advice in terms of blood pressure based on genetic profile? Who do you want to give you this information? Would you like your doctor to have access to your genetic information? Would you like your healthcare insurers to know this? Would you like your employers to know this? How can we store this information? In Food for Me, we're trying to gather consumer perception and understand the regulatory and ethical aspects around collecting this information, storing this information, so that we can protect you, the consumer. So is personalized nutrition the future? Well, I think so, okay? I would like to think that we will, at some point, be able to understand what genes are important, what measurements we need to make, and how we combine this information to be able to give maybe not every single one an individual message, but maybe groups of you messages so that you can eat a diet tailored or personalized to you so that you can live a happy, healthy life. Thank you.